whenever I raised this on Twitter,
like I saw this the other day.
Yeah, like people are like, no, we don't want to trade our young guys. We want to build for the future. And look, I get it. I totally get that you want to have like an asset trove moving forward for when the days of Clay and Steph and Dre are over. Totally get it. But what if?
What you brought up, the Golden State Warriors, they have now jumped to second on this list. Heading into the season, the Lakers were the number 2 behind Brooklyn, ahead of Milwaukee. The Golden State Warriors have replaced them at plus 650. You know, they're number 1 in the West. They have a 1.5 game lead over the Phoenix Suns. Klay Thompson has not played basketball for them yet. His return seems somewhat imminent, like within the next month or two. And reports have been overwhelmingly positive coming out of Golden State about, you know, he looks good. They think he's going to get back to being the Klay of old. You know, Stephen Curry is one of the leading candidates for MVP at this point. Jordan Poole, who they had been hyping up heading into the season, has lived up to that so far. He's their 3rd leading scorer at 17.5 points per game. Andrew Wiggins is playing well. They've turned Andrew Wiggins into a productive, consistent basketball player, which is incredible. James Wiseman also has not played at all for them, but his return will happen at some point this year too. Like Kuminga has been a nice, not playing a ton, but has made an impact in the minutes he's playing. So a lot to like about the Warriors so far this year. Mort, do you think that translates to the playoffs? Do you think they should be considered the favorites in the West right now?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is Stephen Curry after all. This is the Golden State Warriors that has a proven track record. Draymond Green is playing, what I like to call triple-double basketball, but with substance. And I think the change in Wiggins' games, as you alluded to, has been interesting because what they've done is probably what Minnesota should have done back in the day. Minnesota gave the ball to Wiggins and basically told him, make decisions. Go get either a bucket, make a play for others. Here it's no. You need to play within a more strict role. You are being set up by Draymond or Steph. You're playing off of these guys. You're a shot taker, sure, but you're a shot taker in the grander scheme of the offense. You are not going to be handling the rock and getting 6 to 7 assists per game, or we're not going to ask you to do that. 67% of his made field goals are assisted. And that just plays into the larger fabric of having him woven into that over the course of a season where they just go, we're asking you to take specific shots. We're asking you to do it in a specific manners. We're asking you to drive when you have open lanes. We're not asking you to do more than you're capable of, which I always think has been a strength of Steve Kerr. If we're being honest here, even dating back to the glory days, right? Even with Icky coming in, they knew he wasn't a great offensive player, so they just said, play defense, pass the basketball, score opportunistically, and that's it. That's fine. So it took a year for Andrew, I think, to really get aligned with that kind of thinking in Golden State, but I like how it's working out. So yeah, I absolutely think Golden State is up there, and I think even more so if they pull the trigger on a trade at the trade deadline. That wouldn't shock me. And so I'm not coming at Warriors fans when I say this, but whenever I raised this on Twitter,
I saw this the other day.
Yeah, people are like, no, we don't want to trade our young guys. We want to build for the future. And look, I get it. I totally get that you want to have an asset trove moving forward for when the days of Clay and Steph and Dre are over. Totally get it. But what if you could package all those guys and you could get a Karl-Anthony Towns that actually extends the longevity of both Clay and Steph, and hell, maybe even Draymond too? Then what? If you're winning 2 or maybe even 3 more titles because of that, isn't that a trade-off you'd want?
Right. It comes down to how much they shouldn't feel pressure to overpay for anyone, because
agreed.
They have the best record in basketball right now. Things are going great for them, and they have reinforcements coming. But if a deal presents itself, where you're sacrificing long-term potential upside for the short-term championship equity, I think they have to at least consider it. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, yes, if like a Towns or a Pascal Siakam comes along, and you don't have to give up all of the kids to get him, all of the kids plus Wiggins, or however you have to do it for salary matching, or if you can get Siakam packaged with someone else, to replace what you're losing in Wiggins, then I think Golden State, as good as they've looked right now, they're not perfect. Like they have potential weaknesses, and there's no guarantee that who's to say that Jordan Poole is going to keep this up all year? Who's to say that Andrew Wiggins is going to keep? We've seen enough Andrew Wiggins to know that he's had hot bursts in the past, and now has since faded away. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen this year, because I think being under the tutelage of Curry and Green and Steve Kerr, he really seems to have found his niche. But I don't think it's unreasonable to say they should pursue upgrades if it doesn't come at a huge cost. But I'm with you in thinking, if we're seeing them like this, you had Clay, you had Wiseman back to the mix, there's no reason to think they would get worse. And right now, they have the second best offensive rating in the league, the best defensive rating in the league, by far the best net rating. They're a plus 12.9. The Utah Jazz are second at plus 9.4. So they are just beating the ever living hell out of a lot of teams. Have the best assist percentage in the league. They are, I think, 8th in assist to turnover ratio. So they're not turning the ball over a ton, and they're generating a ton of assists, which is a positive sign for their offense. And I think, beyond, of course, you have a team with Stephen Curry, and when Clay comes back, you're going to be one of the most potent three-point shooting teams in the NBA. But I think one of the things that works really well for this Warriors team is, beyond Steph and Dre, a lot of these other guys, you wouldn't call them prolific creators for others, but they can create. Jordan Poole is averaging 3.1 assists per game. Andre Iguodala is at 3.8 in only 20.8 minutes. Bjelica is at 1.8 and 15.8 minutes. So they have a lot of guys who can, manufacture opportunities for others. They're playing smart basketball. They all seem to really know their roles and fit in their system, understand, we are funneling our offense through Stephen Curry as well. You should, but that can open up cutting opportunities, like the defensive attention that he's going to draw can open up cutting opportunities for an Otto Porter and Andre Iguodala. Gary Payton, second as well. I gave you crap for him, or about getting excited about him coming into the year, and he's actually played pretty well. He's their depth is understated. They don't have a ton of big name guys, but they're just good, sound basketball players, and sometimes that's what you need. I think we'll get to the Lakers shortly, but the Warriors are kind of the inverse of that, where they didn't prioritize these big splashy signings. They just went for an Otto Porter, who was a max guy a couple years ago, fell out of favor because of some injury stuff, but now playing well off the bench for them. Bjelica, not a huge name, not going to win the headlines of the offseason, but I'd much rather have Bjelica than most of the Lakers minimum signing guys.
Oh, for sure. But you could also flip that narrative on, upside down and say, now that they do have those guys, that also in theory makes their young players a little bit more freed up to get moved for even more, talent, star power, whatever you want to call it. By the way, Nemanja Bjelica playing under 16 minutes per game is a crime. He's so good.
I know it speaks to their depth, though. They don't need him, because if they're beating teams by almost 13 points per 100 possessions, it's if they need him to play more, they can, but they haven't needed anyone. Curry's the only guy on this team playing more than 30 minutes per game right now.
Yeah. No, it's absurd. I just want to see him more because he's that good. Yeah. This is where the selfish part of me shows up. Look, as long as Bjelica, in the month before the playoffs, gets more ramped up minutes, I'm okay with it. Because I think when the playoffs start and Kerr minimizes his rotation to 9 players or however short he's going to go, Bjelica is going to be one of them. And he's going to be playing 20, 24, 25 minutes per game in the playoffs. And I want to see at least a month of him getting those numbers in the regular season just to amp up for it.
It's going to be a tough decision if you had to whittle down this rotation, because I'm looking at it right now, without even including Wiseman and Thompson, there were conceivably 11 guys, or 12 guys if you want to include Kuminga too, who like I would feel comfortable saying I would like to at least see them as a potential option in the rotation. Right. So cutting out 3 of those plus potentially 2 more with Wiseman and Thompson, assuming everyone stays healthy. Of course, injuries will complicate that, but yeah, like this Warriors team is for real, and they're fun as hell too. They are. I know there was a lot of collective Warriors burnout after the end of the dynasty with KD and Curry going their separate ways. We had a nice 2-year break where the Warriors weren't that good. They're really good again, and they're really fun, and we might as well just embrace it.
Totally agree.